Hi, and welcome to the Bari Fabulous Life. This is the second part of a four-part series in regards to a Bari Fabulous Thanksgiving menu. So, in the first series, I showed you how to prepare a coconut cornbread dressing. Please check that out on Instagram, and the series will be up probably after Thanksgiving on YouTube. Where I live, the internet is not so cooperative, and we have to deal with what we deal with. Moving right along though, today's series we're going to be making a protein sugar-free cheesecake pudding pie. That's right, a protein sugar-free cheesecake pudding pie. And we'll also be featuring a low-carb green bean casserole. I've got my ingredients set, and in our next segment of this video, we'll be discussing some of these ingredients so you can get a better understanding of how we're going to make this dessert happen. So stay tuned. And welcome back to A Bari Fabulous Life. We're picking up with our ingredients instruction. So we've got 2 packets of sugar-free cheesecake pudding mix. We've got a walnut crust, and the reason why I chose a walnut instead of a light or fat-free graham cracker crust is for that carb and protein reading. I feel like this is a better option. I feel like it's a healthier option, and it's a way to keep our carb count down. So again, this is a walnut pie crust, and it can be used sweet or savory. So we're going to use this in the sweet fashion. This is 2 cups of a Mocha Latte protein shake. That's also going to give our pudding pie the chocolate color that we want for a chocolate cheesecake. And then we're going to melt down these sugar-free chocolate chips so that we can marble it throughout the pie, make it kind of fancy. So these are our ingredients, and we'll get started with melting down the chocolate chips. And we're back. I've got set up on the stove a double boiler. This is the bottom pot. You see there's got enough water in it for it to be able to touch the top pot, which is where we're going to put our sugar-free chips and to get melting. So we're going to go ahead and turn our stove on. And I'm going to keep this at about a 3. That way it gets warm enough to melt, but not too hot that it'll burn it down. Get our chips in there, and we'll get that going. Put a little lid on real quick. While that's getting started, we're going to take our bowl, and I have an oversized bowl because it's the 2 cups of protein shake, and I don't want to have a bowl that's too small. Pack it in, and again, this is a sugar-free Jello, sugar-free pudding, not Jello. Usually, it asks for 2 cups. It asks for regular milk, but because we want to add some protein to it, we're going to set it up with the protein shake. Just want to get all of our pudding mix mixed in and incorporated. You can use a spoon or a whisk. But you want to make sure that there are no clumps of mix anywhere. So I usually start with a spoon and then I end with a whisk. Whisk it out to make it smooth. And when we come back, I will show you the whisking process and the melting process of the chips. See you soon. And we're back. You can see our chocolate is starting to melt, and I'm going to add a splash more of our protein shake to help it melt a little smoother. And you can see that starting to melt down nicely. We want to get this to a smooth consistency. That way we can swirl it through our cheesecake mix. And a little extra protein never hurt anybody. After all, we do have protein requirements to meet as bariatric patients. So whether you're a sleever or a poucher, you're still a bariatric. And in all things we do, we want to make sure that we're being very friendly to our very fabulous bodies. Doesn't that look great? Nice smooth consistency. And I turned my stove from a low to a medium-high heat. And if I stop stirring quietly, you can hear the water starting to boil, which we want to pretty much avoid. So once it's at this stage, you want to go ahead and turn your stove off. And with the water's heat, you can remove it from the heat. Take our spoon and set it to the side, cover, and that will be ready when we go back to it. Now the whisking of the pudding. And it's okay if your bowl moves because it creates a stirring fashion if you're doing it one-handed like me. This ensures that there's no unnecessary lumps or bumps in your mix. So you start with a spoon, and then for 2 to 3 minutes, hey, who knew that cooking can be an arm workout as well? You're gonna continue to let that stir or spin while you whisk. And you see how much smoother that is compared to when we stopped before? That's the consistency that you wanted. Now when we return, I'm gonna go ahead and see me put the pudding pie mix into our beautiful walnut crust, and then we'll swirl and marble our melted sugar-free chocolate chips through it. Then we let that set up in the refrigerator for 3 hours. In the last video, I'll be sure to show you how this sets up and how it cuts. So stay tuned for the final setup of your sugar-free chocolate cheesecake protein pudding pie. And now we're back. We're going to go ahead and put our pudding pie mix in our pre-made crust, the walnut crust. And then we just smooth that out. Doesn't have to be perfectly smooth because remember, we're going to be swirling our melted sugar-free chocolate in this mix. Some people swirl it while it's in the bowl, and that gives a more deeper marbled effect. I just want a decorative effect, so we're going to do it at the top of it. And And I just knocked the phone over. But as I said, mistakes, they happen. So we're going to put it like in a swirl. And then you're going to take that spoonful. You don't want to mix it. You just want to make it swirl throughout the top of it. And with what we have left, you can use it to drizzle across the pieces when they're cut. And this is what it would look like with our decorative swirl. And then we will set that in the refrigerator and let it set for 3 hours. In the final video, you'll see the presentation and how it sets up. This has been Lala the Shrinking Lady for the Bari Fabulous Life and the Bari Fabulous Thanksgiving Series Part 2. Stay tuned for our next video, which will feature the low-carb green bean casserole.